Good morning. Welcome to Presence of Light with Charlie Riverman. It's a joy to be here once again with all of you. And I'll let you take a few moments to gather in. Hopefully I'm live, and we'll see if anybody comments. In the meantime, let us just take a moment to be gathered in silence. Somebody has appeared. Georgine Nelson, welcome. Thank you for being here and confirming that somebody is actually watching. Today, as I have announced previously, I want to talk about choices. And the main theme that came to me the other morning was choices we make in a shifting world. And so much is happening so rapidly that a friend of mine reminded me how quickly we have to make choices. And it began to make me wonder, are we really making choices anymore? Or are we just being impulsive and deciding to do things without really feeling into them, without really thinking about them, and just reacting as the energy triggers us, and making a lot of choices in error, which is adding to the chaos and the confusion. And as you know, last week's show was about chaos. So that's what I want to talk about this morning. As we begin, what I'd like to do is just have a brief full moon meditation. It's a short poem or writing by Alfred K. Lamont, who is a proliferate poet and writer and wonderful person of inspiration. And as we're in the full moon energies today and enjoying the grace of that love and that light, which the moon represents for all of us in our hearts. So let's just take a inhale, exhale, and just relax before we delve into some of the other material. Breathing in, feel the reflection of the full moon, settling like a swan on the sea of blue in every cell of your body. Breathing out, let your mind be pulled in a tide of wonder toward the unfathomable night. Silence is not a practice. Silence is your being. Thank you. Silence is your being is a powerful statement. In this world that's rapidly shifting and evolving, whether it's in directions we're in agreement with or not, all of us are feeling the energies that are just ramping up and moving us in tremendous waves of fear, of frustration, of anger, on all emotional levels. And so what I see in the world is that people are not making choices, real choices. They're reacting. We've become reactionary. And when years ago, when I've talked about choices before, choices have to come from our hearts. Who we are truly is who we are in our hearts. Who we are in our minds is a wonderful interface with each other and a wonderful interface with the world, but it's not who we truly are. And we've been trained and programmed to think and to produce avatars of ourselves and images of ourselves to present to people. And so we, with one certain group of people, will be one way, and another certain group of people will be another way. But they're all images of ourselves. They're not really truly who we are. And what I see, even in myself many times, is I'm making choices from that imagery of who I am, not from the true self. So my practice lately has been to sit in silence, to reach that being that I truly am within me, and ask that being, what is your choice? What is your choice for the highest good of you and all others? And I talked about the golden rule, and the golden rule is really an ancient just mantra is all it is. And basically it's do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And it's really simple. But the question is, we don't know who that you is anymore. We don't know who we are anymore in this world that's really shifting. So we see the duality, and it's being thrown in our face. And part of that, I will say, is intentionally, and part of that is just a product of our own chaotic thinking, not with our hearts, that thinking with our minds that has to know who, what, when, where, why, and how. So all of this brings out the duality, life or death. What do you choose? It's real simple. What do you choose? Do you choose life or do you choose death? And I wrote these two words on a piece of paper, and I just said, I don't know where I'm going with that. I said, but I do now, because the reality is there is only life. Death is an experience, but it's not a reality. And I know people will, say, well, that's not true, blah, blah, blah. It is true. I've witnessed it. It's not a reality. Okay? It's a vision and an illusion that we have created in order to create meaningfulness for the life we live in these bodies. That's its only purpose. So when we don't choose life, in essence, we are alternatively allowing death to overcome us, because it's simply the opposite. And so we need to choose from our hearts what is important to us. What is living? What does living mean for us? And there's no way we can walk through this world and look around and see the destruction and see the havoc and see the pain and the suffering and say, oh, this is life. I like this. And if you do, I will even pray harder for you, because you are what I would call just a lost soul. You're still the source of unconditional love. You just got lost. And you're so separated from it that I don't know if there is a return for you. That's not my job. So my purpose is, do we create creation? Do we create, or do we honor creation, or do we Leon saying the image is not good. Well, Leonie, I'm going to say that has to be on your end, dear, because my picture is fine. And so I don't know what we can do to address that. So pardon my interruption here while I do that, but I just wanted to bring that up. So we create, or do we live in despair? This is our purpose. We create, and we create by choosing, and we create by choice. Everything is done by choice. So this is part of this energy renewal that we're going through. That is, the world is shifting, the planet is shifting, the universe is shifting. The energies are coming in at such a rate that it's hard to imagine the intensity that some of you are experiencing. I have friends who are really experiencing intense frequencies of energy, both physically, emotionally. And it's disturbing everything in their sort of daily life. So in order to bring our choices back to a centered balance, there are some practices that we can use. And it's time we really dedicate ourselves to making better choices, choices that are aligned with our hearts, choices that align with life, choices that align with the energies of evolution, the energies of co-creating as a whole human species, and move and just embrace this identity of an evolving being. You are and I are all evolving. And we need to own that. We need to recognize how many different ways we no longer are the same person we were 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, or even 3 minutes ago. We've been conditioned to believe this is how I'm wrong. Okay, thank you, Tammy. We have been conditioned. We have been taught. Some will say it's in error, and I will say we're a race of storytellers. So each one of us has created the story. Each one of us is responsible for rewriting the story. And that's what we need to do. So some of the things that came up as I was just playing with this were a list of things, words and phrases that are things, practices that we can do daily or in any situation in order to take us out of that reactionary space and to calm us down or give us a little more presence, a little silence in our beingness, to make a better choice. And that's all I'm asking people to do is to share with others, there's a better choice. I don't know what that is in this moment, but if I take a moment to calm down, to settle in, to become that silence, the answer will come. So one of the things was listening, not so much with our ears. We listen with our ears to all of the noise around us, but listen to your heart, listen to your inner voice. Listen to that inner guide, which you are. This is you speaking to you. Granted, there are angels and guides and spirits and ancestors all speaking to you as well on this inner plane of our existence, this, we would call it intuitive sense. It's really you. It's you, the divine you, that you're really tapping into. It's when we get into the mind and the physical world, we want to deny that. Oh, well, that's just my imagination. Well, look what your imagination has created. We're living in it. This is what this is what my imagination has created. We're all part of this. We're all, and blame or feel guilty or sad about. It's to say, look, we've created, if we could create this, what really could we create if we really put our minds to it and made better choices? So one is listening to that inner self, that inner voice. Staying in the present moment when things get scattered. We get imbalanced, we get frustrated, or we get hit with energy that's unnerving. Try to bring yourself back into the present moment and not let the mind wander into, this is like that, this is the same as, and just look at things as they are, as best you can in the present moment. Just bring it right to the right now, and listen. Continue listening and say, what is going on? I don't know, really understand what is happening. I can feel it, I can call it this, but what is really going on? So a lot of making better choices is questioning what is happening instead of immediately reacting to something. Yes, our energy overpowers us. Thank you for that, because it is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Sometimes it's horrible, the fear, the grief, the pain, the suffering, but it's momentary. If you look in your life at how many of those moments you've had lots of them. This is not the first time. So be consciously aware that it's a moment. That's technically being mindful, is to not the mind that's creating the choices out of past experiences, because we all have traumas and those traumas affect our thinking. But being mindful with the higher mind, the mind that is in communication constantly with spirit and your true divine self. Another thing is meditate. Take a moment to meditate. It can be just a few minutes. It can be a half an hour, whatever you have. Just take yourself out of this and just go within and find that inner space within you, and then just sit there. For many of us, it's uncomfortable, especially when we're in a state of energetic excitement. But it can be done, and you will learn little ways to do that the more you practice it. Embracing our true self was another thing that came up. Who is this true self? That's a good question, isn't it? Who is this true self? And what does it represent? And what is its desires? What is its passions? Where does it want to be in this world? And how are we denying that? How are we not expressing that? We're not going to do it perfectly 100% of the time. I certainly don't. But when we start to look and seek that true self, it will start to reveal itself more and more. And then we can stand up and actually act and make choices from that true self, rather than from the mind which has been traumatized and conditioned and programmed. And so this is part of the process of making better choices, and making choices in a world that's shifting so rapidly that it's hard to keep up with it. We don't have to keep up with it. And that's the message. This is the problem. We keep thinking we have to run faster. No, we need to bring in more stillness. We need to bring in more calming energies and more balancing energies into our lives. So to awaken to our intuition, to relax and allow ourselves to receive information. This is the power of who the true self is. This is what the true self has command of. This is its domain. The true self is always in communication, intuitively. It's in communication with everything around it, the environment, the birds, the animals, the trees, all of that. It has never been separated except by our thought and our thinking. So much of our thinking, as wonderful and beautiful and powerful as it is an interruption. It's an interruption which disconnects us from the true self and has us making choices that are not in line with our higher self, with our hearts, or with the hearts of others. And we are the only ones who can bring it back into focus. No one else can do this for us. This is the amazing power of the self journey, is to reclaim your truth, reclaim your power, reclaim your light. We are, as Tam, yes, we are all co-creators. And I want to co-create with you. And I want you to co-create with me. And I know in my heart that your heart is in alignment for the highest good of all, because I don't want to do anything to you that I wouldn't want done to me. And you wouldn't want anything done to me that you wouldn't want done to yourself. And I'm going to have to trust that. There's a lot of trust issues here with making choices from the heart. You have to trust the heart. We live in a world where the mind doesn't trust a whole lot of anything anymore, does it? It can't. One minute it's the truth, and the next minute it's a lie. All our illusions are being revealed. All the crimes against humanity, the crimes against life, the crimes against creation are being revealed rapidly, so rapidly that it's unbearable for many of us. And I know many of you are in pain. I know you are. I hear you, I feel you. And I can assure you, you can bring yourself back from that. One day at a time, one moment at a time, one thought at a time. So those are some things. And so some things you can do are briefly, you can go for a walk in nature. You can talk to the trees, to the birds. One of my favorite things is just sitting by water, a body of water. Smell some flowers. Flowers, the power of smell is wonderful. And when it's a natural smelling, perhaps, you know, as long as you're not allergic, of course, that's the problem. But smell some flowers. It will shift your consciousness. What is it going to take to shift your consciousness back into balance with, in harmony with all of life? Some people they go into creative. They paint, they'll sew, they'll knit, they'll make something with their hands. They'll get into their physical creative part. Some people exercise. Some can do it obsessively. And again, whenever we do things obsessively, that's the other side of the coin. What are we doing then? We're really just doing it to get the feeling and not say, it's this, the reason I'm doing this is to create a field of resonance within myself so that I can make a better choice. So there's a limit. When we overdo something, what have we done? We've gone too far the other. So again, here's a message. Bring it back. When we recognize we're going too far, or overworking, or over, hey, let's take a look at that. We all do it. I've done it. I still do it. I've worked 2 weeks in service. I mean, beautiful service. But my body is in pain right now. It's aching, and it's telling me, hello, Charlie. Time to be still. Time to be still. It was a wonderful thing, but now it's time to be still. exercise. We have smiling or laughing. When you smile and you laugh, the energy shifts. Watching children play. Part of my service has been to part of a child care center that's in a new space, and to watch the children in the playground and talk to them just makes my day. And the first thing they want to know, what's your name? That's what what's your name? And every day I tell them the same name, but that's okay. They want to hear your name. They want to know who I am. And isn't it funny? The children don't care whether I'm 10 years old or 90 years old. They want to know who I am. And they only know how to say, what's your name? But when they ask me, I know what they're asking. They're asking my soul, who are you? Are you one of us? Are you loving and kind? Are you here to embrace me? This is what the children ask. It's our responsibility to do that. You can pet and play with animals. And the last one here is look at your hands. And I love this, but I read this, and it says, when we're distressed and we can't figure it out, stop and look at your hands and just say, wow, here I am. I'm not out there. I'm not over there. I'm not in here. Here I am. I'm living in this physical body. Bring it all back to center. And from that space, you will make better choices. And that's what living today in this shifting world needs, is for each of us to make better choices. It doesn't matter at what level or how you exercise those better choices. But every better choice you make for yourself has a resonance that goes out into the collective whole of all of us. And it becomes part of the greater resonance and takes back the sovereignty of who we are as creator beings. And it takes it back away from those who wish to manipulate, who are operating from greed, who are operating from anger, who are operating from despair. We've got to stop giving away who we are and stand up and be the truth of who we are. And that's what the message was this morning. And just before I signed on, I just wanted to take a moment to honor St. Francis, who was one of my guides, and he reminded me, and I put on his cross, which I wear. And so I would just like to close with this little prayer that I have that sits right up here on my desk and always reminds me of who I am and what I am. And if you don't know about St. Francis, go look up his life. He was just like one of us, and he made a lot of choices that most of us would cringe at making. But there's the power of making choices. And so the prayer of St. Francis, the little bit that I have here, reads like this. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. And so that, my friends, my brothers and sisters, completes my show. And I thank you all for being here, your comments, and just a joy to do this. I never know what's going to come out of my mouth. And by the grace of my guides and angels, what you heard is what they had me present. And I thank you, and we'll see you next week. And many blessings to all. Enjoy the full moon, and Start making better choices. I love you. I thank you. I bless you. Bye-bye. Till next week.